Good day, everybody. And I'm Lisa Dubrock from Pathway to Compliance. And I would like to introduce you to Julie Cole. Julie is the Senior Vice President of Distributor Solutions at an organization called Meal Ticket. And Julie, can you start us off just by telling us who you are, most importantly, and then what Meal Ticket is?
Sure. Thank you, Lisa, and thanks for having me here today. Again, Julie Cole. Probably better to start with what Meal Ticket is, and then it'll kind of make a little more sense as to what it is that I do.
Okay.
Meal Ticket provides solutions to food service distributors. So it's kind of a niche market that a lot of people don't necessarily know a lot about unless you're in food service. But essentially, distributors are my primary responsibility, and distributors are the ones that provide food to restaurants, schools, anyone who's actually consuming food. So distributors are collecting all this food from all the different manufacturers, the Tysons, the so forth of the world, and then they're redistributing it to the actual end user operators. So that business in itself is one that is made up of quite a few players. There are some very large players like people would recognize on a national basis, things like Cisco and US Foods and that type of thing and PFG. But then there are a myriad of independent distributors also. And that is a lot of the group that we work with are the independent distributors who are working with independent operators. So there's a little bit of I'd say David Goliath feel out there as to who we are working with, both on the distributor side and the restaurant side. So it's kind of fun from that perspective, a little extra motivation every day when you get up. But anyway, that all being said, so Meal Ticket has solutions for distributors to help them do their jobs better. And you think about doing their jobs better, you probably think about like efficiencies and supply chain and that type of thing. But there's a whole other element of food service distribution that is around compliance and rebate management and that type of thing. And that's really where a Meal Ticket comes into play. So there's a tremendous amount of contracts that have to be tracked by a distributor when they're selling food to specific customer groups, when they're purchasing food from specific suppliers and that type of thing. And these all require tracking, they require billbacks, they require a lot of work. And that's really where Meal Ticket began. And that was with a product called TrackMax. And that was almost 30 years ago. So we've been doing this for quite some time. Over the course of the years, through acquisitions and that type of thing, Meal Ticket became who they are today, which is a full service supplier of multiple solutions for distributors that manage rebate management, of course, so help them track all the different things that they need to track for billbacks and that type of thing, but also then helps them leverage the data behind that to do marketing activities and promotions and trade shows and events and functions and that type of thing. So it's really a broad offering that helps them promote themselves, helps them promote their suppliers, and helps them make sure that they're in line with everything that they're supposed to be doing. So I've been with the company now for about 12 years. I was with a broadline distributor for about 12 years prior to that. So I was one of their customers actually, and doing all of those things and living that life. And I enjoyed it. And again, that chip on my shoulder of being an independent was something that motivated me every day. But I had a real itch to get back into technology because I'd been in technology way back when. And it made an obvious choice to me to go work for a company that I really believed in the technology space, which was Meal Ticket. And so I've been doing this for about 12 years, doing everything that I possibly can every day to help our distributor partners be better at what they do, expand their horizons, grow their bottom line, and just be efficient. And as I always just say, better at what they do, because that's really that's what I'm here to do.
Okay, when we spoke earlier, you made a comment about your organization really supports those distributors to be accurate, efficient, and strategic. Can you talk to me about strategic? What does that mean
Yeah.
for a distributor?
Yeah, sure. So when we start talking about rebates, and I guess it's probably important to lay out the specifics of that. So when people think about a supply chain, they think about, well, you buy something for this amount and then you sell it for this amount, and the difference between that amount is what you made for gross profits and keeps the lights on and keeps everything running and that type of thing. But in food service distribution, that's gotten quite complicated over the last 20, probably 30 years, quite honestly, in which there's a lot of different funds that are coming into play. So as an example, I, as a distributor, may have a high volume customer, a high volume clam shack, let's say, and they go through a lot of French fries, let's say. And the producer of those French fries, let's say it's Lamb Weston or McKean, doesn't really matter who, wants to protect that business and wants to show that high volume operator that they appreciate that business. So they're going to give them a discount. And when they give them that discount, when they buy their French fries, it goes through the distributor. So the distributor has to provide that discount to that particular customer off invoice. So they, even though they're paying full price for the product, they are then tracking how many cases they sell to that particular operator and then billing that distributor or that supplier back. So they're being made whole from providing a discount. That's
Oh,
probably
okay.
the most basic type of rebate that is out there, but it's prominent and it's when I was with my distributor, we literally had thousands of them. So there's a lot of them that need to be tracked and so forth. But that's just one. In addition to that, distributors are going to have promotional programs with suppliers, where suppliers are going to say, "Hey, I'd really like you to promote my business. I'd really like you to do these promotions for me. So I'm going to pay you a certain amount on everything that you buy." So they might say 3% of your cost. I'm going to give you that back. Okay, so that has to be tracked and billed back and so forth. Then the distributor might have a high volume customer where they say, "Hey, you're a great customer and you pay your bills on time. And so every quarter, I'm going to give you 1% back of everything that you buy." Okay, now there's another thing. Then all these independent distributors belong to buying groups. So these are co-op organizations who have gone out and negotiated programs on their behalf to give them collective buying power and that type of thing. But that's all money and bill back type of scenario. So you can imagine by the end of the day, it's really difficult for a distributor to understand how much money did they actually make. When you're talking about their expense,
Yes.
you're talking about the deviations that they had to extend, they're talking about their local marketing programs, their buying group, maybe GPOs, all these things are coming into place. And that's a really hard number to get to for a distributor to figure out how much money did I actually make when all of this noise is calmed down. And that's what we do. And that's really, it's an important part from an accuracy and an efficiency perspective. So that whole process of billing back, we take what can be a process that can take days and weeks for a distributor and literally turn it into minutes. So it's very efficient. It's also automated, so it's very accurate. So we're not going to be fat fingering things and that type of thing, which can possibly happen. But then ultimately, at the end of the day, when we get that distributor to that place where they understand where the true profit is, that's where we can get strategic with them and say, okay, now that you understand of all of your different products, here are the products where you have the most opportunities, where you
Oh,
have property, where you have profit opportunities, where you have opportunities for growth. We're giving that information so that they can then plan accordingly with their sales team, with their marketing team, with their procurement team, and act accordingly. And that's really, really powerful because otherwise, a distributor can really easily slip into a replenishment mode, which is basically, let's just make sure I have enough product to sell. And that's important, but they're not being strategic at that point. And that's really where we're getting them to, is getting them to a place where they can have really intelligent conversations with their supplier partners about, again, opportunities in sales and procurement and that type of thing, to come out at the end of the day even more profitable than they were and with strategic plans for growth.
and then I'm assuming this is done with this product TrackMax that you brought up.
Yes, yes. So we actually, as I said before, we were a culmination of several different products. We had TrackMax, we had Insights, we had CRM, we had all these different products. And
Okay.
about a year ago, we decided, you know what? All those products do a lot of really good things, really good, really well. But what about if we brought them all together in one single offering and took the best parts of each of them and put them into a single platform? And that's when we launched a product called TrackMax Plus. So we're utilizing that name for the product that's been around for so long, but adding the plus to the end of it to indicate we have enhanced it with all these other offerings. And that's really exciting because we've been able to take some key components from things like our trade show offering and our CRM offering and so forth and bring it into this one single offering that really allows people to take that important data that I talked about
Right.
before and use it in any way that they need to.
And then is this a SaaS solution, TrackMax Plus?
Yep, it's a SaaS solution. It's a monthly subscription fee for our customers. So it's a low, I don't want to say it's a low price point, but it's not like this huge investment that they have to make. It's something that they can acquire and bring on at any point within their year to start taking advantage of. And there's not all the IT of worrying about servers and all that other kind of stuff and
Right.
apps and so forth. It's a nice, easy offering for them to implement and bring into play.
And then in your back office at Meal Ticket, how do you protect? That's a lot of data that you've got to keep track of. How do you protect that data?
We are extremely, extremely careful with folks' data. We understand the importance of that. We understand, obviously, that we have been entrusted with valuable data that we need to make sure that we're very careful of. So we have, from an IT perspective, we have all of the assurances from AWS, Azure, all of the different folks that we're partnering with to make sure that things are very safe. But in addition to that, and any time that we have integrations and that type of thing, we have pretty strict data compliance components that come into play, agreements that have to be signed. We're just extremely, extremely careful. And we try to teach that to our customers also, especially now in the world of AI. And I'm sure you hear
Yes.
this all the time. People get really excited about AI, and I'm very excited about AI. I think AI is amazing, the things that it can do. But we try to counsel our customers on make sure it's really easy to take all your data and like throw it into AI and say like do this analysis for me. But make sure you're doing it in such a way that you're not putting it out into the universe for everybody to see. So that might take a little bit of an investment. That might take some different things to make sure that your data is being analyzed in a secure place. But it's really important that people think about that, because it just, to get overexcited about AI and then suddenly realize you've actually compromised yourself because you threw all this valuable data into, you know, the free version of Claude or something like that. Claude's amazing, but just be careful what information you give them and how you give it to them to make sure that that's not out in the wild for everyone else to see and leverage.
So you're really providing them with a partnership and trust. And then you're helping to teach them how to do sustainable governance based on that trust.
100%. That's exactly what we want to do. That's
Okay.
exactly what we want to do. We want to help them leverage the value that they have in house that they may not even know that they have with their data. Not to say that we don't encourage bringing in outside data to it to enhance it. So things like, I don't know, it could be weather, it could be seasonality, it could be all these other things that are going to impact their business that are not data that they necessarily have, in their in-house system. But we encourage bringing that in, but ultimately their data is the most important and most valuable thing that they have. We want them to trust us and then we want to work alongside them with their data specifically to say, okay, here's our best path forward. This is what we recommend for you. Go get it. We're here to help you along the way. But yes, it's definitely a partnership. I love having the relationships that I built over the course of the last really 24 years. I value these relationships. We have a lot of people in our organization who've been doing this for a really long time and have those same types of relationships. And it's just fun. It's just so much. We all have to work, right? We all have to put in all of our hours every week. And when you have the ability to do that with people that you really care about and you have open relationships with, and there's trusting and you're really moving the needle, that's probably the biggest thing. I'm not going to launch the space shuttle and I'm not going to do brain surgery, but at least I'm making an impact in the industry that I'm in, and that feels really good, and that's what our company is all about.
There's been quite a disruption to the food chain recently. So, how has TrackMax Plus and your organization, how have you weathered that shock? And what also with your distributors? I mean, they must have really been affected.
Oh my
Are
gosh.
they asking for things that they might have not have been asking for you before because of all of this disruption?
Yeah, I mean, really, if you go back, I don't even know how many years it's been now, 5, 6 years. I mean, obviously the pandemic was ridiculously disruptive in our industry because you had all these distributors who had this whole inventory of food for customers because obviously it's not real time. They have to bring in inventory and
Hmm.
have all of that. And then all of a sudden the restaurants shut down and they were like, we have warehouses full of food. We have no customers. What on earth are we going to do? And during those periods of time, because we had really good data intelligence tools, we were able to help them understand, a little bit more about the trending at that time, but then kind of figure out, okay, how do we diverge? How do we get into different markets? Okay, so who is still buying food and what kind of food are they actually buying? You had like an extreme change in school districts, obviously. They were going
Hmm.
from kids who were in school to kids who were at home. But a lot of times those districts were still feeding those kids. They were just
Yeah.
feeding them in a different way, kind of a lunch bag as opposed to,
Hmm.
a hot meal type of thing. So we worked alongside of our customers to help them understand where that business was, what could be done with that food. Is there an opportunity with those suppliers to exchange food, repackage food, whatever it is, to try to make that? And that's just one example of it. But how do we do that? And then there was obviously a huge shift to takeout, which I think we're all enjoying still today. That's probably the only thing out of COVID that I really appreciate is the fact that everyone does takeout now.
Yep.
But still, there was another switch where we had to, work with our distributors, and help them consult with their customers about how do I go from fine dining to a takeout? Like, how do I do that? What products do I need? What are the best products that I need? And then we had to help our distributors understand, okay, this is the effect it's going to have on demand for you. Here's what we see over the last couple weeks. This is where we see this going. So there was a lot of, I would say, people doing what AI is doing today. But that's what was necessary at that particular time. In addition to that, just generally speaking, in supply chain, costs are crazy. Inflation, tariffs, all of that stuff is coming into play. And if you, as a distributor, don't totally have locked in understanding of your cost and the impact that these programs are having and the impact that your customer churn or your customer gain is having, it's really hard to make good decisions. And I would say that on a day-to-day basis nowadays, now that we're not dealing with pandemic and those extreme changes, we're still really focused on that perspective with our customers of really understanding their cost, really understanding the trending of it, and really understanding, again, the impact that programs are having on their data and their customer mix and that type of thing. So that, again, they can make the best decisions, planning decisions moving forward. Sales inclusion, but also from a procurement side, it's really important. I think that's probably an area where the industry itself has been lacking a little bit in support on the purchasing side and procurement side of everybody wants to help the salespeople. And that's great. And we do want to help the salespeople. But then you also have this whole organization that has to fulfill the needs of the salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to need that extra support too to understand the impacts that are happening within the organization. Again, customer churn, customer gain, products out of stock, a lot, alternate sourcing of it. There's just a lot of that that comes into play. And so we're able to help them with that, again, with the business intelligence tools that we have available.
So I've been on a board of a food pantry, and the food pantry happens to be about half a mile off an expressway exit. And it is amazing to me that all of a sudden we'll have a truck show up. And it's a distributor that has too much of something. And well, let's just drop it at the food pantry. Well, when you get a truck of mushrooms to a food pantry, and obviously now they don't have a long shelf life.
Sure.
How do we distribute a truck of mushrooms?
Funny enough, it's and I have not worked at a food pantry. I love that you do that. I think when you have like oddities like that, and this really comes back to the pandemic also, like all of a sudden you had all this inventory and you're like, I don't even know what to do with this. Like,
Yeah.
I literally, what am I supposed to do with this? Well, fortunately, within the applications that we have, because we understand sales data and we also have external sources of data around menus and that type of thing, we can help our distributor members with that. Like, how do you use these products? Maybe you didn't know that you could use this for that. And now let's run some specials. Let's do some different things and that type of thing, because we understand the menus of operators across the country and what they're doing with all these items and that type of thing. So it's very helpful from that perspective. Also, I would say, in addition to the distributor business, which I represent, we also have a product called Market Man, which is an inventory management for operators.
Okay.
So that is helping them understand their par levels and that type of thing. So tapping into those types of resources, I think, really helps you expand your horizons on like, what is it that I'm possibly going to do with this? Now, I don't know how you turn that into something in the pantry other than being able to say to your customers, those folks who are taking this food, here are different ways in which you can use this item that I have. And here's some different things that you may not have thought about. And here's some nutritionals, and here's some information about freezing and all that type of thing. Really, I think we limit ourselves only by our own creativity and figuring out what things can do. And it's hard to be creative every day, every second of every day.
Yes.
So when you can leverage the data that says, hey, here's how someone else was creative, you might be inspired and have opportunities to find new ways to do things with product that you hadn't considered in the past.
So thank you so much. You gave me some great ideas. I appreciate that.
Sure.
One of the things that I do want to tap into just a little bit deeper is your own back office at Meal Ticket. How do you ensure that the security of your information, because you've got a tremendous amount of data, you're not just a little bitty server somewhere. You've got a tremendous amount of your customers' data.
Sure.
And how do you protect that?
Well, I am not the CTO. That is his job. So I don't want to get too far in the weeds on that perspective. Yes, but I can just tell you from my experience, our structure is such that access to data by employees of our company is extremely limited by your role. So you have access to exactly what it is you need to have access to. And again, it's going to be very limited access to, to support. So if you're running a trade show, obviously you need to see the customer's data that they're going to be seeing when they're running their trade show, as an example. But can you extract that? Can you do things with it? No, you can't. So we limit access with our employees to what it is they need to do their job. And we don't want to be a hindrance. But at the same point, does that sometimes mean that it's kind of annoying? Because like, if I could just get in there and do this thing, I could solve this problem, but I can't. Yes, that's exactly what happens. And that's okay, because we've put those guardrails into place to
Okay.
say, but what if you did it wrong? Or what if you did some, we have to be so ridiculously careful about it and protective of it. So I would say, like, infrastructure wise, we're just that careful. I said before too, also about integrations into data agreements. We don't enter into data agreements with anybody where we're exchanging data back and forth without some pretty great
Okay.
documentation in place there about exactly what's going to be shared and when and how and so forth. Customers have to sign off on it. Careful, careful, careful from that perspective. But then as far as the CTO and the dev team goes, I know that they are locked down. And I appreciate that, because I need to be able to say to our customers, your data is safe. You can entrust us with it. So all the compliance components that come into play with, again, AWS, our previous product was on Azure. All of those things are in play. We're doing the pen test. We're doing all those types of things. Again, not my area of responsibility,
Right.
thank goodness. We might be in trouble if I was actually in charge of that, but I can tell you it's demonstrated every single day that the clarity and the security and the compliance component on that, it is demonstrated every single day in everything that we do.
If, as we close up this podcast, I'd like to ask, you know, tell me one last thing you want to bring up about compliance and your organization, and why meal ticket, you know?
Why a meal ticket? I think it comes down to passion, quite honestly, and probably passion isn't something that you necessarily think of when you talk about compliance, but passion in general. We are an organization of very passionate people, and our statement is that we want to feed the communities that we serve, and feeding them through data and intelligence and that type of thing. So you've got a really large organization of passionate people who care about our customers very much, care about their data, and wake up every day, literally sometimes in the middle of the night, thinking about, like, hey, if I did this thing with this person, I could help them do this. So people will make fun of me, and it's fine. I don't mind it. But I'll be talking with someone, and I'm not the only one. I'll be talking with someone about, these different ways that we could go about this and so forth. And they're like, at the end, they're like, do you have software that does it? I'm like, oh, yes, I do have software that does it. But I get so excited just talking about the ways that we can get there and the things that we can do, and the decision process that they're making and all of that then it's kind of an afterthought of it. And oh yeah, by the way, I work for a software company that has software that does that. And I think you would find that again and again within our organization, that we truly care about what we're doing. And oh, by the way, we have a solution that will help you do that.
And you know what? I would add passion then to the accurate, efficient, and strategic.
Yeah, definitely passionate. Something about
Passionate.
the crazy people who work in this industry, and we all say we're crazy. It creates passion. So you have a bunch of crazy, passionate people in the organization, but we love what we do, and we're excited to have this opportunity every day to serve the markets that we do.
I thank you so much, Julie, for your time today. And at that, I'm going to call this a wrap.
Awesome.
You've done a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it.